Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The off-season is starting with a bang. There was probably 4 different dramas going down last night. Chiefly among them though, Doug Censor versus Brandon Dashy Hotel, former teammates back in the day on Complexity, as you guys can see in this screenshot. But Doug was going in on his lack of accomplishments, the OpTic culture that he's helped to perpetuate it in a negative direction. And Dashy doesn't buy these ideas. Claps back at Doug super hard. We're going to get into all the beef today. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts and comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Loads of new subs yesterday, which is indicative of this very spicy time of year. There was so much happening last night though. Just wanted to briefly go over because there was some Egirl drama going on. There was this that Classified tweeted out about some pro cheating on his girlfriend on Sunday. I don't know what that is. Crow was looking for the leaks, but we'll see if anything comes out about that one. There was also some Egirl roster mania going down that Crow gives some intel on here in the replies. But there was also rumours emerging around some fight that broke out at the, not at the venue, but at one of the casinos on Sunday night. I don't know if there's any videos of this. Unfortunately, there's probably not. But that, I believe, is what Simp was referring to with this tweet when this is what a movie last night was, because I think it was going absolutely wild there in Vegas. So maybe not a massive surprise, but it's still pretty entertaining. And yes, and also us is like the COD community is crazy. So there was so much happening yesterday, and there was that whole drama that was going on. There was also Scrappy making his return to the timeline. Is it safe here yet, he says, because everything was going down we're going to dive into. Octane's like, bro's trying to slide him on the timeline. It's hard, like we wouldn't remember what happened there in the finals. You wish I played like that versus you, Scrappy says. So it's good to see that Scrappy, despite having lost and getting humbled pretty hard, having to eat a fair serving of humble pie served up by the Bulldog there in the grand finals, that he's not lost his way, as he's Scrappy. Like, he's still coming back, he's still going to talk trash, he's still going to be the same character next year, and it's good for the scene. And honestly, I think looking back on it, the way this goes in terms of storylines, because Scrappy's a player that I think he's going to potentially get to future World Championship Grand Finals. Like, he's going to have more chances in the future to get a ring, and maybe the search for that and the storyline around Scrappy trying to get it after getting bodied at his first attempt is actually going to make the next few years even more interesting than they already will be with all the storylines that are currently emerging. This was funny though. So Shah Madrid, you guys might know, one of these CDL Twitter guys, right, he tweeted this out after the Grand Finals, talking about how Scrappy had lost Challengers Champs and COD Champs. He's not built for Grand Finals, some pretty funny stuff. And then Scrappy says, you almost passed out and fell over when New York sent you an envelope of a player card. You're on dick like Mariah to Zion, which is, this is unbelievable stuff. Now, I don't really follow that whole drama with, is it Zion Williamson or something, the basketball player, and there's all this stuff with his exes, or I don't exactly follow all those storylines, but I saw things were developing on that again last night because Twitter goes wild with this stuff, to be honest. So that was just hilarious, especially if people really know the story. I think that's even more hilarious, to be honest. Shah then responds, and Scrap says, you had licked the dirt off my shoes, kid. So that was, you know, just some more drama. Like, Twitter was going absolutely wild. Let's dive into, though, the Doug versus Dashy thing. Firstly, Rostermania. We'll talk about it more later on today. Some of the potential moves that might be being talked about behind the scenes right now. Couple of free agents. The first one of the off-season really was London's analyst, so wishing Aaron the best going forwards. There was also this from Awoba Bobs confirming that all of their players are now restricted free agents. Which of these guys will get picked up by the league, if any? Now, these guys came in as favourites for the Challengers World Championship. They ended up top 6. aBeZy, though, a very talented player. He had a season in Challengers this year, just like Scrappy did in Challengers last year. Now, okay, he's Belgian. He does speak English, though. I think he would be a good asset for many teams. I think some teams will give him a go. Maybe some of these other guys can get in the league as well. But, yeah, the offseason is going to be crazy. Restricted free agents. That's what they're planning to do. Also from Parasite, thought was quite nice. Just confirmation from him that he's still looking for a role as a manager or a coach in the league. This has been a big debate over the last couple of seasons. I still do firmly believe that Parasite could help a lot of these teams out. So that's his plan. But where things all kicked off yesterday was this from the reverse sweep. So the episode comes out last night. I was listening to it, and Doug went absolutely off on the main stage here against Dashy. Now, honestly, this was, if you read the replies of this tweet and also like Reddit threads talking about this, I've never seen, at least in terms of the extreme opinions on what Doug is saying, so much of a split. Some people are saying, Doug, you've got no idea what you're talking about. Like, completely washed up pro, haven't won anything in years. Okay, he's got more chips all time than Dashy has, but they were won a long time ago. He's doing 0.8s in challenges, right? And people roasting Doug, and I can understand why. But there were other people saying, and you know, a fair few people saying that he's actually speaking straight facts here. So I'll share his perspective before I give any of my opinion, and then we'll dive into the backlash.
Make sure we clip this because I'm calling out Dashy right now. And I'm calling him out for very specific reasons. I've known Brandon since the very beginning. I've seen this guy Brandon play on basically every tailor-made situation he's ever wanted for the most part. I mean, I'm sure there's some that he didn't, but all I see from Brandon is the embodiment of the OpTic gaming culture that Seth always sets. And I have a huge fundamental disagreement with it. And I think Brandon's the biggest issue here. I think that Brandon is always getting everything he wants. I think he's the most straightest shooter in Call of Duty history. He's such a likable guy, and he uses all of it to his advantage to get whatever he wants. And all it's equated to is lackluster champs performances, 0 rings, and 2 championships in 5 years, with every single situation tailor-made to what you want. You're getting Shotzzy, you're getting Huke, you're getting iLLeY, you're getting this guy, you're getting that guy, you're getting Scump. You're doing everything that you want. And I think this is just the OpTic culture. And I think Brandon's the biggest culprit of this culture in that building. He will always drop great numbers. If you're that guy, Brandon, and I know that you can be that guy, you got to start playing to win. You got to stop playing for kills. You got to start being more of a team player. Everything is a team shot. I think that OpTic, again, just like every other year, and it's like the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL. Every year, everyone thinks they're going to be so good because they get all these great slayers. And I'm telling you, I've seen this for the last 10 years, Pat. We beat them with you having stitches in your thumb, and you had no sleep. And we had to beat them in 2 best-of-5s, and they had a dynasty squad just like they always did,
I'm
right?
different. I'm different.
There's certain people that are different, like Kismet, who we're alluding to right now, right? Like Dashy, to me, you got to change your ways, man. You continuously repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. You've been benched countless times. You keep on getting bailouts from Hector. Hector keeps on bringing you back up. Like, you got to take your accountability, Brandon. And I'm saying this in terms of love because I believe in Brandon. I love Brandon. I think he's a great dude. Straightest shot in Call of Duty history. That's some wasted talent if you don't get a ring, bro. You're only going to get that ring if you change the way you're going about it. If OpTic Gaming keeps Dashy and Shotzzy and picks up Pred, I'll say it right now, they're never going to win anything. I'll bet my house on it. By the way, the coaches are getting fired. Rambo's not in there anymore. They're trying to figure out a new coach. They got Karma making these cameo appearances. Let's call this for what it is, guys. It's all just some hype. It's just some hype. This is all hype to get clout and engagement. This is literally all it is. If you guys are actually about it, if Karma wants to be the coach, Karma should be all in with the coaching. You should be enforcing the culture. If no one wants to fall in line with Karma's culture, you bench them. You don't bring them back in. You got to set a precedent. You can't enable these guys to just walk through life making all this money without getting any accolades, man. 2 championships in 5 years for someone like Brandon is unacceptable. I need more out of him. I expect more from Brandon.
So Doug completely goes in there, right? He's not holding back any punches on this one. Now, his perspective on Dashy, I don't particularly fully agree with, and we'll get into why in a second. His opinion on OpTic, though, in general, I mean, it's kind of funny in a way, because I actually made very similar points in last night's video, where I said that ever since Crimsix has gone, from a winning perspective, like having that kind of killer winner mentality, it hasn't really been the same over the last few years, and I felt that for some time. Doug feels it as well. He even felt it back in the day, it seems, when they used to be top take in series that they feel like should not be possible. So from a cultural perspective, I think they actually make some very interesting points there on OpTic. And I mean, okay, his thoughts on Karma coming in just for clout, it's an interesting observation. I don't necessarily think that's fully the case, but in fairness, right, when Karma first was joining them as a coach kind of thing, and Doug kind of mentions it as a cameo appearance because they had Karma lined up behind the guys. They had the camera pan around to see him in the background, and it was nice for content and stuff. But I kind of see Doug's point on that. His perspective on Dashy is very interesting. He used to play with Dashy back in the day, and look, he calls him out for playing for kills too much. I think Dashy personally has improved a lot this past season. If you look at the teams often live and die by the SMG duo, and fundamentally, that team, given what happened, Scump retired, iLLeY was, not good enough anymore, in their opinion, they got rid of him, they bring Huke in from Los Angeles Guerrillas, looking back at their season, they probably did all right with the pieces that they had. And I don't think pinning the blame, as it seems like Doug's kind of doing on Dashy for this, is necessarily justified. But then again, as Doug says, 2 championships in 5 years, his results straight up aren't good enough for his talent, and it does seem like, especially in the World Championship this year, Dashy doesn't really deliver in those big moments, right, compared to what we might have expected from him. So obviously he is a beloved player by the OpTic fan base, but I definitely think criticism his way is justified. Whether, as Doug kind of did, pinning all the blame on Dashy for all of these problems, I don't think is necessarily true, though. And I do think that Dashy has made some steps to be a better teammate and to play better in terms of the team game overall than maybe he has done in previous years. So I do think Dashy's taking some steps, but still, maybe it's not a coincidence that many of these teams fail to deliver. And as Doug says, hopefully he takes this the right way. I always saw unlimited potential in him, and he said that a couple of times. Now, if you're Doug, do you really expect Dashy to take this the right way? Probably not, and we then get the responses that come through. So Dashy comes back with this first response, absolutely fantastic. Say whatever BS to stay relevant in this community, because the gameplay surely isn't doing it, brother. Thumbs up. So, you know, many people are saying it's about time that someone clapped back at Doug in this way, and Dashy clearly disagrees with Doug's assessment that he's playing for kills too much in this type of stuff. And in fairness, there is a bit of maybe irony here in the fact that Doug is playing for the Boston Breach Academy, and Boston in general is the team known for players playing for kills the most of anyone in the entire league. And some of those players, maybe Kremp, maybe Beans, actually played with Doug for some time, and as did Dashy back in the 2018 days in World War II on that complexity team. And maybe there's an argument to say that Doug's philosophy around Call of Duty, that he's just going to play the OBJ and everyone else get kills around him, actually sets these guys up for failure when they get into the league, as in they play for kills too much. So maybe it's actually, you know, Doug's setup around how he built his teams that means that many players that he teams with tend to have these issues when they go up to the Pro League. But yeah, that's another debate entirely. So Dashy says the following, and look, fair play. Dashy's going to clap back at Doug for his ability and say that, look, Doug, you're not good at the game, so who are you to criticize type thing. And I understand it, but it doesn't necessarily counter some of the points that Doug is making. You're right, I've been in challenges for years fighting for a spot. Hopefully I get mine soon and I can put you in the place you deserve to be. I mean, this is just absolutely fantastic from Doug. So he was potentially ready for some sort of response. And then Dashy, I thought this reply was particularly funny. Maybe next year's the one, bro. Keep at it. Keep up the good work, Doug. You'll get back into the league at some point. Obviously thinking that that's not going to be the case. So, man, based on this evidence, I would have really loved to see Doug actually in that Boston team at Champs. They would have played each other round one. Would have been really spicy. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. And, you know, we even got Octane in the replies of this one, getting rather excited about the possibility of some juicy drama on the timeline, as there usually is. So, look, is Dashy right? Is Doug right? I think there's both elements can be true to a certain respect. I do agree with part of what Doug says there, but, you know, pinning a lot of the issues on Dashy himself doesn't seem justified, and, you know, Dashy clearly feels the same way. But obviously we've got to look at, right? I mean, these are the results of Dashy in his career since he joined the league. This is when he teamed with Doug actually back in the World War II days. Okay, the results weren't so pretty, but since he joined OpTic, they won the first event, and since then, lots of thirds, lots of, you know, fourths, eighths, sixths, you know, obviously a win last year at Major 1, but even since then, sixth, top 4, top 6, fourth, seconds. You know, it's not great, is it? Let's be honest. Given the guys that Dashy has been around, and, you know, his best ever champs placing is third back in the Black Ops 4 days. Since then, it's been top 6. Okay, he didn't even really play in 2020, but he subbed in, so technically, I guess he got top 6 of those guys. Top 4 in Vanguard, top 6 this year. Never really has delivered at the World Championship, right? And maybe there's multiple reasons for that. I mean, I think Doug's point on that Hex has given these guys bailouts, and just the way the culture is set up over there at OpTic doesn't feel like it's set up for a winning environment as well as the other teams are, especially at the end of the year when everyone's putting in absolute maximum work at the end of the season. Teams like New York and even Thieves last year that have got those other elements of the gameplay outside of the game itself more in check, they're the teams that tend to really turn up at the end of the season, right? And I mean, look, these are the overall season numbers. You can see their recent results not pretty at all, but I mean, overall, Dashy had a pretty good year, and his KD this year wasn't like insane, and I feel like he did improve as a player, but maybe Doug has a point in terms of the way that this team is set up. That, I mean, he also made the point at the end there, right? If they bring Pred in his opinion, with Shotzzy and Dashy, they're not going to win anything. He reckons even if they keep Ghosty and bring in Pred for Huke, he is of the opinion that that team is not going to win. And I kind of see what he's saying, right? In terms of fixing the problems with OpTic and some of the issues they've had with closing things out and throwing away life advantages and stuff like this. I don't know if that one-man change does fix all their problems, but you would think with more time with Karma, it's definitely possible they can solve those issues. But very interesting observations there from Doug. Definitely don't fully agree with what he's saying, but it's very interesting stuff nonetheless. And just to close out the video here, wanted to mention this. The Ravens, they did manage to make $10,000 this year in prize earnings, but it's not pretty, let's be honest. It's 0 all the way through, 10k for Major 5, getting that one series victory for them. And as Slack says, because he's interested in maybe doing what Haggy's potentially going to try and do, let me coach and GM this org next year, promise you this would never happen. So very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.